Hello, everyone. This is Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I have with me Mariette Soudja. Mariette Soudja, please tell everyone hello. Can't get it out.
Hello, everyone. I'm really nervous. This is my first time doing this, so I'm really nervous, and I'm excited to be on. Thank you for having me on. I'm a fan of yours. I've been following you on Twitter for a while, and I love the video you did with Katie, my lady, Katie Johnston.
Oh, nice.
Johnston. I love her. She's my favorite. So it was great.
Very cool. Thank you. Yeah, Katie's cool people, man. Katie's cool people. I like her a lot. She gets so much shit from she gets so much shit. And not just her. There's been a few people who got stuff, particularly when those people were against the Syrian conflict. And this kind of brings an intersection with the reason why I'm bringing you on. So Mariette was in a situation where she had the potential or had the capacity to talk to people who were Syrian refugees. Now, when she mentioned this, the thing in my head lit up was like, holy shit, that's amazing. And that's not really an experience that most people get to have. And the reason why I brought you on, I had this, my wife and I were in, I think it was North Carolina. And while we were in North Carolina, going into one of the stores, I ended up talking to this woman who was from the Ukraine, I believe. And she was a refugee. She essentially escaped that particular area of the globe. She ended up in the United States. And she's giving me this different perspective than what the media is saying on what was taking place with regards to Russia and the Ukraine. She was fucking fascinating. And she's like giving this stuff about the war and everything else that's taking place. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, yes, this is great. These people are having a conversation right now on this idea of Syria. And it would be great to actually get it from somebody who was actually talking to somebody who was there.
Yes. So first and foremost, even when I was younger in college, I didn't believe the weapons of mass destruction story. And my own teachers, my professors were furious at me for even asking questions about it. You know, and all these years later, we saw what happened. 1 million people were murdered, tortured. There's no evidence of weapons of mass destruction. It's the year 2018. Every time I talk to someone, or if you watch The View, they tell you, oh, just get over the Iraq war. Just get over it. You know what I mean? So
that's amazing. It was just 1 million people that died. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all.
Like they were against George W. Bush during the time. A lot of liberals were, until Hillary Clinton came, and they were like, get over it, you know?
Yeah, so, that's true. You're right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, and she said on camera, we need to look at the Iraq war as a business opportunity. She has actually said this. It's on video, and, you know. But anyway, so back to the regime change. This is why I was scared of Hillary Clinton, because she said that the first thing she would do is take out Assad, you know? So that was code for regime change, like Bernie saying that too. So I got scared when I heard Bernie say that, my uncle Bernie say that. I was a Bernie delegate, by the way. I was a Bernie Sanders delegate. I went to the convention. And so I never was someone who believed this regime change that they wanted, you know, what the media is telling us. So I wasn't, when I heard the refugees, I wasn't shocked. Okay, so I went to Army. Oh, I also went and I saw Eva Bartlett. She's the Canadian journalist who covers a lot of the Syrian news. I saw her in December 2016. So I went to Armenia last year, and I lived there for 4 months. Beautiful experience, very different. And I speak the Western dialect, so I was able to tell there were Armenian Syrians, so Armenians from Syria, and I could tell through their accent that they were from Syria. So I straight up would be like, are you from Syria? Can you tell me about your experience? What do you think of Assad? And I kid you not, I spoke to probably, during my time, more than 10 people, and they all said the exact opposite of what our media and our politicians are telling us. So, you know what I mean? I want to even read to you, I kept in touch with one of them, and this is what he wrote. He said, the issue is not that I asked him, do you like Assad? And he was like, the issue is not that I like him or not. If there's another one who will be better than him, of course I will support the other one. I think there is no one from the current opposition that can take his place and be better than him. Every government has negative sides, yada, yada, yada. And then he goes, regarding the media, there is a very big lie, especially in the American media, because they follow it too. What they say and write, it is a war, and sure, lots of innocent people and kids will die, but it is not intentionally to kill them, just to fight the opposition.
That's amazing.
At least the government.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, at least the government's army were sending us stickers by planes to the residents, telling us that we needed to evacuate our homes because they will have strikes in the coming days. So it was the opposition was bombing places by knowing that, it says the opposition were bombing places by knowing that places are lived by people, not the Syrian army. So basically they were not running away from the Syrian army. They were not running away from Assad. They were running away from the terrorists, from the rebels. And who's funding those terrorists? Who's running those? They're coming from Turkey too. So when I spoke to them, I said, you know, in America, everyone is so brainwashed and they're like, Assad is a dictator and I'm not saying he's a hero or anything, but they were just like, he's a dictator. And they didn't, by the way, a lot of my friends that hate Assad never even spoke about him before the media even spoke about him.
You know, the part that always blows me away with this, it's like a certain amount of shallow thinking. It's almost like Assad is a horrible guy. Assad is a strong man. Assad is a bad guy. And so it's okay that we, pay terrorists to undermine Assad's government because Assad is a horrible guy.
But a lot of Americans don't even know that we're doing that, funding, training, arming these rebels. They don't even know that.
That's a sad, you know, CNN, I used to always ask this question, are they incompetent or do they just not know? Like, I couldn't necessarily tell whether they just didn't know or whether these guys was just batshit crazy. They just off their fucking rockers.
I think it's a little bit of both.
I think they know. I think they know. I honestly think, okay, I think you're right. I think it's a little bit of both. When Tulsi Gabbard comes back from Syria and Tulsi Gabbard said, we need to stop sending terrorists, Jake Tapper reflexively said, well, the government says that they're not doing that. Well, Jake Tapper immediately knew to say that the government said they're not doing that and just immediately took what the government was saying in order to push back against Tulsi Gabbard. That means Jake Tapper, to some degree, knew. He at the very least knew that was something being talked about and something being discussed. Jake Tapper, yeah.
Yeah, so Neera Tanden, all of them, they were attacking Tulsi Gabbard. They were calling her, how dare she be? She's an Assadist. She's an apologist for a dictator. So it's really interesting what the refugees were telling me. They're like, anytime an American says this, why don't you ask them, hey, how come you have no problem with Turkey's Erdogan, who's a million times more of a dictator? How come there's no, no one's talking about that? He's an ally. They have no issues with him. It's just, it doesn't fit their agenda. It does not fit their agenda. That's what it is. And regarding the media, the corporate media, I have friends. I used to work in entertainment reporting, and it's not necessarily the same as politics, but even a lot of people in the media, they don't really know what corporate media means, or what I think even like corporate comedians don't even know what the term corporate comedian even means. You know what I mean? And how it's like, the agenda with a lot of this is pretty much warmongering too, you know what I mean? And they're very one-sided, and that doesn't help this discussion and the position that we're in.
No, it does not. They're immensely biased. I mean, they have a dog in the hunt. They have a very specific perspective that they give. Like, if you really wanted to give the public an honest opinion of what's taking place, like if the news media's goal was, we want to give the public as much information as necessary so they can have a decent understanding of the world and our role in the world. If that's what their perspective was, then you can't take this bogus perspective where you can't tell people that we're funding this group or funding that group or trying to take down that government or some other government. You can't do that. Like, they slant this stuff so significantly to one side that it becomes almost nowhere near the truth. Like, it becomes almost unreadable. So
there was a lady who said, don't Americans ask questions? Like, look what happened in Iraq. Look what happened in Libya. I said, no, they don't. They're like, they really don't. I'm like, no, they believe everything that the media tells them. Oh, they're like, oh, Americans are just like the Russians because she lived in Russia. She's like, they both believe the news. So that's something Americans and Russians have in common, that they both blindly follow. But the greatest conspiracy theories ever, the greatest brainwashing ever does not come from Facebook memes. They come from the corporate media. Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. Assad gases babies for fun because he's this Christian Satanist. And now this whole Russian bot thing that we'll get into. But yeah, she was just asking me, they don't ask questions. And I go, no, because when I have conversations with my friends, they really think that we're doing this for humanitarian purposes.
Wow.
They really do. They think we're doing this to protect us. And I'm like, no one's critical thinking 101. You don't bomb kids to for freedom. That doesn't, like, what? It doesn't make sense. Like,
you're trying to keep freedom away from those kids. Is that what you're trying to do? How dare you, man? You're a horrible person.
I don't understand how it's the year 2018 and people have still not figured this out. You know,
no, they go with it. They just go with it. No interrogation of what's being told. If the media says it, it has to be true. And the media themselves are just stenographers. It's amazing how they just take it. Like, the moment that you find out that your government was paying terrorists to take down another government, that looks like that would have been the end of the conversation.
Exactly.
Like, where else do you go from that? It doesn't. There was this Senate thing with Lindsey Graham, I believe. Lindsey Graham is foaming at the mouth, screaming that Assad is a brutal dictator and that every person who was coming out of Syria wanted Assad taken down and all this other stuff. But you're saying that Lindsey Graham doesn't know what the fuck Lindsey Graham is talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a point where I said, where Katie, I was talking to Caitlin Johnson, and I said, here's the problem when I talk to my fellow liberals, is that they're so good talking about white privilege, and they're so good with male privilege, and they're good-hearted people, they are, okay? But they have another moral blind spot, and it's called American privilege, okay? Where they only focus on domestic issues, and they really don't care what's going on in the world, okay? And so she wrote an awesome article that you have to write. It's called "Democrats Have a Nasty Case of American Privilege." Please read this, everyone. Democrats have a nasty case of American privilege. It's brilliant. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you. So that's what I say. It's American privilege, you know?
See, I don't know if it's American privilege or, well, okay, so there are two things. Because politics is not necessarily in a vacuum. So you have this thing of the Americans themselves, meaning the cultural identity associated with the country as a whole. And then you have the individual identities of the parties themselves. So it doesn't make sense for Democrats to try to come up with a reason why Hillary Clinton would lose. Yes, makes perfect sense. Does it make sense for the Democratic Party, meaning regular human beings who believe that she was going to win by 98%? Yes, they need some way to explain their world. And so from the Democrat standpoint, we need to stick a knife in this idea of Russia, and we need to pivot us in a way in order to tar the other presidency who's coming in order to eschew blame from essentially losing to reality shows. So there's that part. Then there's this wider narrative that America completely is incapable, for whatever reason, of understanding that other countries exist. Like us going into Vietnam. Like we didn't care that Vietnam had just gotten over this kind of French oppression and that Vietnamese thought that we were coming into the country to be colonizers. We didn't care one iota. It didn't cross our minds. It was, we're America and you guys are pushing back against what we're trying to do, in which case we're going to kill several million of you. Same thing abroad. And so when you have the party system themselves that are saying, we need to do whatever we need to do to explain this Russia nonsense. And then you have the American public who looks at this without the ability of saying, well, what's more likely to be true? Did this really have an impact? And should we contort ourselves in this way to go against this other nation? And does the other nation have a perspective in the same way that we ourselves have a perspective? It's like those things are missing from the way we interact with the world.
Yeah. And when I talk about American privilege, I'm obviously talking about the citizen, like the regular people, the average rank and file Democrat. I'm not necessarily talking about the politicians. They know very well what's happening. So yeah, that's that. And regarding this Russian narrative, yeah,
because you're a Russian bot. I heard. Yes, you're a Russian bot. I saw that video on RT, and I went to see the entirety of the video, like the whole video after I saw it on RT, and it got to the end, and I was like, I think I've seen her before. I was like, I am a Russian bot. I fell over.
Yeah. So William Markham, he's the creator of that video, and I talked to him a lot. Okay.
William Markham, I know that cat. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I don't know him. I saw a video of his.
Yes, he makes great videos.
Yeah, he did this awesome video talking about gaslighting. I think that was the name of the video. It was talking about gaslighting.
Exactly what this is. That's exactly
amazing fucking video. Like you're going through it, and he's going like detail by detail by detail, and he's like naming the tactics and all this other stuff. That video was amazing. I would say if anybody who's interested, check that video out. The guy's name is Will Markham.
Hilarious. Like, and he's very informed, and every time I have a question, he just knows the answer. I'm like, what? People are fact checking me with Snopes right away. He will show me a video he's done on Snopes, discrediting them. So it's great. You should have him on your show. Anyways, he was the creator of this Russian bot, and I have been called a Russian bot. Okay, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm still in the party. I still haven't exited. I tried to, but like my friends are like, oh, the midterms are coming up. Just stay there. But yeah, I was called a Russian bot on Twitter because I was criticizing neoliberalism. Okay, and people are so upset at me, a lot of my friends, that I don't really speak a lot about Republicans or Trump. It's because I think that's not the solution. I think the solution is working within the liberals. You know, someone was telling me punching the left helps who? I was like, punching the real left helps who? It helps the neocons. That's who it helps. That's why we are in this mess, you know? And that's the thing. The left is not who they used to be. They're totally for war. They're totally for this regime change. They hate whistleblowers for some reason. They hate Russia. Didn't Edward Snowden like go to Russia? Like, didn't he run there? Like,
you know how weird that is, by the way? Like, so when John F. Kennedy, if you ever hear John F. Kennedy's speech where he's talking about going to the moon, there's this awesome speech where John F. Kennedy is talking about, we're not going to the moon. What is it? We're going to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. We will use this as a test of our abilities, etc. Like this awesome fucking speech where he's proclaiming this thing of, we're going to put a fucking rocket on the moon. He's in that speech, he's talking about freedom and justice and saying we're going to go to space to make it free and open and all. It's pure propaganda. They're going for militaristic reasons, but they're coding it in this idea of freedom and justice in the Soviet Union.
Coded like that, yes.
Yeah, right. And then Edward Snowden has to end up going to Russia in order to escape a jail sentence for revealing that the United States was having mass surveillance all across the United States illegally. Exactly. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I was called a Russian bot. I've been calling the Russian bot because my friends are like, why are you so against this story? Why are you so against this story? I'm like, why are you so for this story? I don't understand. And I have a bigger issue with people who are Bernie people that are believing this than I do with Hillary Clinton people. Because Hillary Clinton, my friends who support Hillary Clinton, they really didn't believe me when I told them what was going on during the primary. Oh, you're just being a toddler with you have a tantrum like a toddler. So forget it. It's like talking to a wall. Forget it. These people are not going to believe anything I say. I went to the court hearing in DTLA after the California primary. I watched the testimonies. I saw it with my own eyes. They're not going to believe it. But Bernie people.
Wait. Explain that part. So you said you went to the California primary. Because for people who just getting here, Mariette was a Bernie delegate. In addition to being, having this experience where she was able to speak to some of the refugees that were from Syria, she was also a Bernie delegate. And so you're making this point of saying that the California primary wasn't necessarily on the up and up. Now, the California primary was weird, like the other primaries. Like all of the weirdness and oddities that has happened to the primaries all throughout the 2016 midterms, and all of these always went one way. The election totals never really matched the exit polls. I mean, like magnificently missed the exit polls in many of these states. And then I distinctly remember this because I was like, that doesn't look suspicious at all. When the exit polls weren't matching, and it got to the point where they weren't matching so bad that they just stopped the exit polls. Now, I remember when this was taking place in real time, and I said to myself, it looks like they're lying through their teeth at this point. Like, if you're going to say, because these things were wrong, instead of us actually addressing why these things were wrong, we're just going to stop analyzing the results itself, then it looks like something's wrong with your story. So explain from ground perspective, being there in California, because I'm on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
What was taking place during that primary in California?
In California, I remember the Associated Press, I think they called out that Hillary won. It was around noon. Yeah. Some people are saying the day before, but that got a lot of people not to vote. I even have some friends that didn't even go out to vote. They're like, Bernie's not going to win. He's not going to win. I tell you, he won California, honey. I went to his rallies. Like, that guy, he had California down. I even made a music video for it called Burn, Burn, Burn,
I saw.
Why I'm choosing him over Hillary. But my family, we all got the pink ballots, the provisional ballots, like without explanations. My friends had to fight for it. So that was weird, you know, and there's like you know how there's a meme of Oprah giving out pink ballots. You get a pink ballot and you get a pink ballot and you get a pink ballot, you know? So it's like everyone in California, that was your experience. You got a pink ballot, you know? And they weren't counted until way later or something like that. So it didn't matter. They prematurely said that she won. Okay. So then that's what happened. And I went to the convention and Bernie told us we had a call with him and he pretty much said that she's going to come out as the winner. So I don't know why people were shocked that she, you know, was going to win. They had this plan forever, you know, but we fought hard. And I am very disappointed that he didn't speak out about what happened during the primaries, but he's speaking like he's going against Russia. And I'm having the same problems with a lot of Bernie people who were like, they weren't as angry as what happened. And now they're so angry at Russia and like, you know.
That's so bizarre to me. Yeah, that's bizarre to me. I like somebody, one guy said something like, I think it was TYT. They were, yeah, it was you. It was Cenk Uygur saying you need to throw your bodies on the streets or something like that. Like you need to throw your bodies on the line if Donald Trump comes out and fires Mueller. And it's like when they were cheating Sanders, you didn't say shit about that. Not just say shit about it.
I remember volunteering for the Bernie campaign, okay, here in Cali. And I remember TYT and Cenk, they told him, like, I think the day of the California primary, like around then, they're like, he needs to endorse Hillary. After what happened. So I was like, they were trying to play safe on both sides, I feel. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's when I was like, I really don't know, because it helps them. It helps get Bernie supporters to watch TYT, and then they play it safe and they go to Hillary. And no, I don't think they did call out what was going on in the primary. I think I watched the video of Cenk saying something like, I don't really know if that really happened. But now he's like, Russia, 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 Russia. He even did a tweet talking about how Russian bots are right wingers and Putin's your daddy, Putin's your daddy. I was like, oh, geez. And people, you know, they still defend them. I mean, as an Armenian, the Young Turks was the name of the party that killed my ancestors, committed the Armenian genocide, you know, and I'm going to talk about that next month because April 24 is Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. So I'm going to talk about it because I'm so sick of these TYT bots telling me to shut up, being offended by this genocidal name. And the dictionary version comes from this. But anyway, yeah. So
to be honest, I'm always weirded out by that myself. I didn't quite understand that one. I sent them, I think this was like a year or so ago, where I sent them this like a letter saying, how are you guys continue to hold this name? Like, how are you using this name? Now, I remember Uygur said beforehand that, you know, he evolved on this issue, that beforehand he didn't necessarily think that the genocide took place, and later on that he became, you know, fair enough. But the argument that people,
this is not like something that people change their minds to. This is genocide.
No, I agree with you. No, I fully agree with you. It would be like if I had a school called I'm trying to think of a Klansman name or something like that. My school was named after a Klansman. Would I name my show after something like that? Imagine if somebody named their show The Holocaust Hour. People would have some issue with that.
And there's a Jew on that telling other Jews to shut up.
Yeah, right. I mean, so I understand the issue with that. I totally understand the issue with that. I always thought that was so bizarre. When I hit my head on that name, and people's defense is usually like, well, dude, I mean, how do you know that he knew what that was? It was like, are you telling me that the person who has all of this pride in Turkey and his heritage, which he does, you should, I mean, it's what it is. Are you telling me they wouldn't know? Like, I understand if you make the argument of saying, well, it's not that big of a deal. Fine. You need to make that case of why that's not big of a deal. But are you telling me that he doesn't know? And are you telling me that he didn't know? Now, I can even understand the point of somebody saying, well, he didn't believe it existed. Because I'm not wrong on this, right? Turkey didn't own up to this. In fact, Turkey still doesn't own up to this.
No. So next month, though, I would love to come back on because I have so much to say about this. You know, I'll get into details about this. But yeah, so TYT during the California primary, they told Bernie to endorse Hillary. I remember emailing the campaign, even the manager, and saying, look, this is not, I don't know, you're going to get, this is not a good thing right now. But And then even during, so I spoke with Bernie's, what do you call him? Warren Gunnell's policy advisor, okay? I spoke to Warren Gunnell's policy advisor when I was there. And he was telling me about more or less what Bernie's gonna say at our speech, at like the meeting with his delegates. And then when he said we need to do everything to defeat Trump by getting, you know, and we have to do that by getting Hillary elected, I said, oh no, honey, he's gonna get booed so bad. He's like, no, he's not gonna get booed, honey. The next day, boo! I have a video on YouTube. I have a video
of that. That booing goes for a minute. Like they're cheering Sanders. Every word he's saying, they're cheering. I'm like, yeah, like flipping out. And he says, we need to do everything we need to do to, you know, to defeat Trump and support Clinton. And a cacophony of boos. And he stood there and took it. Like, oh man, it hurt. They panned the camera away from him as they're booing him.
He was stunned, yeah. And like his wife started crying. And I don't think she was crying because we were booing him. I think she knew that we really loved Bernie and we really thought like, you know, and so
hurt Jane's feelings by booing Bernie. Oh, you bastards.
So she was just like, it was such an intense moment that she started crying. We're like, you will beat Trump. You will beat Trump. We all started chanting that, you know, and let me tell you, at the convention, the most disgusting memory I have was when Leon Panetta was on stage. And he's doing the whole convention, Trump. Before, during the primaries, it was never about issues. It was Trump. You know,
that was a campaign strategy. I mean, they understood that if you make it about
stupid strategy. Yeah.
What else could they make it out of? Like Obama ran that campaign screaming hope and change. It's hard to get across. In 2008, think of how euphoric people were when Obama won that presidency, and the soaring rhetoric of hope and change, these massive speeches and everything else. And at the end of it, people are like, that didn't feel like hope and change at all to me. You know, it didn't match up. Now you have another Democrat who's coming in immediately behind him, the most distrust or untrustworthy person, at the very least from the public. The public doesn't think she's trustworthy. Are they going to believe that this woman all of a sudden had this magnificent shift in her public appeal overnight? They didn't believe her on the TPP. They didn't believe her on the healthcare stuff. They didn't believe her on the minimum wage. They didn't believe her on squat. So it's like, I don't know what she would have ran on outside of Donald Trump is going to eat your babies and kick your puppies, and you need to protect, you know, vote for me to protect you from Donald Trump.
Well, a lot of her supporters are very like, their brain thinks through, it's a very identity politics.
Yes.
You know? It's not really, because I was speaking to Hillary delegates, and when we would have meetings and talking about the TPP, they were like, what is that?
Wow, and that's amazing. That's sad.
That's a Trans-Pacific Partnership. They're like, who cares? Do you want Trump to win? That's all they would do. I'm like, we're here to talk about issues. We're delegates. Like, we had to do our homework. We're here to talk about issues, and they didn't care. It was Trump. So when Leon Panetta was on the stage doing this whole Trump fear-mongering, Bernie delegates started saying, no more wars, no more wars, no more wars. And the Hillary delegates were trying to shut us up, and they said they were doing what Republicans do, which is USA, USA. They were counter-chanting us. That was a disgusting moment to be a Democrat. A disgusting moment.
But it's true. I mean, look, I have no illusions about this. I mean, LBJ went into the Vietnam War. He didn't have to do Vietnam. He went in and he ramped up that war. Democrats are just as assiduous, you know, as connected to war as the other party. I think people get shocked by it because they think that these guys are softer and cuddlier. Not so much. I mean, Obama killed thousands of civilians during the time he was in with that drone program. He had a kill list. I mean, these guys are just as obsequious to war as the Republican Party is.
You know, and people get mad at me because they're like, why aren't you mad at Trump banning, you know, with the Muslim ban? And I'm like, I am upset at him. But I mean, during Obama's term, like, didn't we bomb like 5 of those 7 countries that you're talking about? So like, to me, bombing is way more evil. It's worse. So it's like, I don't know, neither is an ideal situation. Like, so yeah, that's kind of the problem I'm having discussions with others. But, you know, we're discussing, it's all out. Like, it's good what's happening, as crazy as it is, like, it's good we're having these conversations, you know, and it took a Trump presidency, sadly.
Yeah, and see, that was the other thing, and that was the argument I kept making. I was like, there is You get no change if Hillary Clinton gets elected. None of these people will be on your side. None of these people will be talking about resistance or anything else. None of these people would care about the issue. You think those people are going to learn about the Trans-Pacific Partnership with Hillary Clinton in office? Fuck no. Like, you think they're going to care? If Hillary Clinton had killed Social Security, if she put a bullet in Social Security, let's say she privatized Social Security, let's say she started a larger conflict in Syria, let's even say she got.
She was, honey. That was the first thing she wanted.
I know, that's my point. That's why I'm adding these things. So let's say she also added a tax cut, a massive tax cut, meaning maybe not as bad as Trump's, but a massive tax cut. Let's say she filled her cabinet with people from Citigroup in the same way that Obama did. I'm trying to make this point, like, even if she did all of the bad shit that she said she wasn't going to do, if she runs in 2020 and there was Ted Cruz on the other side of that election box, are those people going to in any way punish Hillary Clinton for doing what she did? Like, I guess I'm saying they have no way to hold her accountable. Like, at the end of the 4 years, it doesn't matter what Hillary Clinton did in that last 4 years. Those people are going to see a batshit crazy person standing with the Republicans, and you're going to say, what about the Trans-Pacific Partnership? Or what about her gutting Social Security? They're going to say Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a maniac. We can't deal with the stuff that Hillary Clinton did. And they would say, we could focus on the third party after the election. We could focus on the stuff after the election. But right now, the biggest threat here is this person. So you got to put that other person in office. That's what they said this time. That's what they were going to say the last time. That's what they said during Obama and Obama and Romney. That's what they said with Clinton and Trump. And I guarantee you
there are memes from Hillary supporters and even tweets, like even from last night, I was checking and they were like, if Hillary were president, we'd be at brunch right now, or we wouldn't be stressed right now. But every day Trump is ruining our lives, and I'm watching CNN and MSNBC to inform myself.
But that's in their heads. Like, that's not real. Like, they're believing that their understanding of reality is the absolute flat fact of reality. Like, they don't necessarily have any kind of ambiguity built into that process. So for them, it's, oh my God, the world fell off a cliff when Donald Trump took office. And you kind of make this point to them, like, you understand that it didn't fall off a cliff. The last president was doing the same thing. Donald Trump is just an extension of Obama. He may be grosser in some ways, but he's just an extension. Your world didn't fall off of a cliff. They don't see it. They don't see it.
Because he has no like social tact, and he just calls it out. And like he says, fake news, but it's true. It's always been fake news. And CNN is as much as fake news as Fox News is. They both sold us so much more.
At this point, yeah, they have a bias.
So I was in this video, back to this Russian bot video. William put us together, all these Russian bots, and we're activists. You know, everyone is fighting for something different, and we're being censored. A lot of our Facebook posts are being censored. You know, while they talk about net neutrality and all that, no one's talking about like how we're censored on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and all these places. And you know, that's not freedom of speech, honey. So it's not like, and they're trying to say that it's the right wingers that are being censored, which is still, that's not fair to, you know, that's not freedom of speech either, but the anti-war movement is being shamed and is being censored. Yeah. So that's a huge problem. And in a way, it's a good thing, because what it tells me is like the deep state, they're scared as hell. They're scared. They know there's this kind of like awakening. And so yeah, that's a good thing. But this whole Russian narrative, and people don't even know how like Syria and Russia, like it's interrelated with each other and why they do this. But yeah, and what makes it so dangerous is that now that Trump is so hated, it's almost like they can manipulate people easier that way, you know, by making these associations, you know. Yeah, so this whole, you know, it's so weird how we have to believe that these memes on Facebook somehow like hack people's brains, but the mainstream media doesn't.
It's so bizarre. I mean, that like they don't even challenge the ridiculousness of it. I saw a quote from Bill Maher, where Bill Maher was like, clearly these Russians are crafty. I mean, they were able to, and he's not, by the way, he's not saying this out of like in a sarcastic way. He's saying this with all seriousness, saying, yeah, those crafty Russians were able to spend $50,000 to topple our election. And it's like, you can't possibly believe that. Like, you can't believe that. Like, she had over $1 billion to run that election. She had a Twitter army where she paid like $6 million for. Then you start getting into all of the...
they had their own trolls. They had their own trolls. They told my friends to F themselves with knives. They were violent. They were crazy. So, yeah, this thing is like, anytime a friend gets mad at me, I go, why are you getting mad at me? Like, why aren't you getting mad that the media gave billions of free time to cover Donald Trump? Like, why aren't you getting mad at them? Why are you getting mad at me? You know, the Hillary Clinton campaign, it's in WikiLeaks. They pretty much said you have to elevate Trump because they thought that was a strategy. They thought they would win so easily, and it came back. It came back. Like, it was just so I don't know. They're blaming the wrong people. They're pointing the finger at the wrong people. And essentially the big picture is this is like war propaganda too, which makes it so dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know. And you know what? Like, I have a lot of friends that hate RT now because, you know.
Are you serious? Oh, man, this is too
Julian Assange. It doesn't help that Julian Assange is on RT, and I love Lee Camp, who's on RT. Chris Hedges, one of the best journalists out there, is on RT, and I think he came from the New York Times, and
they fired him for talking about the war.
Talking about the war, he was even booed on. He went to a college campus and he was talking against the U.S. interventionism, and he was booed. And he's one of my favorite journalists, and he's on RT. So I just don't understand how Americans are so brainwashed to hate RT now. Even
it's amazing. I mean, it really is amazing. It shocks the shit out of me. I don't ingest mainstream media to the degree I think other people do, and so I don't know how they get it. They don't even think about it. Like, I try to think through myself of what was I like 8 years ago? What was I like 10 years ago? And what was the thing that allowed me to stay in that state and not necessarily kind of pop your head up and say, wait a minute, we're being fucked over here. These people are maniacs. I don't know the demarcation point. Like, I don't know what flipped that switch to being awake versus asleep on this. I have no idea. But I have to admit, my experience with Hillary supporters are similar to yours. That they were maniacs. Most of them didn't know anything about their candidate. They knew little to nothing about the political situation itself. They thought she was going to win by some magnificent margin, and they could not understand why anybody didn't like that woman or why they didn't want to vote for her. And in their minds, oh, it's because they're racist and sexist and homophobic, which is the only reason why they wouldn't vote for that woman.
I was called privileged because I voted for Jill Stein, but I really didn't want this regime change in Syria. I couldn't vote for that, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought there's nothing more evil in this world than wars for profit, wars based off of lies, you know? So I can't do that anymore. And we need to, like, that's what we need to resist. That's the number one thing we need to resist. And we need to wake up fellow Americans as hard as it is. But the thing is, I think Hillary supporters, like, even if they're in denial, they know something's wrong. They know something, you know, in their way of thinking. Maybe. No, you're like, no.
Oh, no. I don't know. I have to pull myself back on a lot of this stuff sometimes because I'm annoyed at the way they behaved in the last election. And because I'm annoyed with the way they behaved in the last election, and if I'm being very honest with myself, there is a slight, what is it, that not endorphin release, but there's an endorphin release when I hit a Hillary Clinton supporter. And I don't mean physically hit. I mean, like, one of them pops up and says something insane, like Peter Dow or one of her acolytes or some ridiculous person on Twitter says something insane. I get a kick out of hurting those people's feelings, and not feelings. I'm saying this in a bad way. Going after someone for something that they're saying that is insane, particularly from a political context. Those people who are, for example, I give a perfect example. The guy from Daily Beast, Mother Jones. Mother Jones comes out saying that they need to get rid of Katie Johnson from Medium.com.
Oh, yeah, I hate him. Oh, no. That
guy is a fucking idiot. Now, not only is that guy a fucking idiot, the idea that you're going to try to start censor people because they don't necessarily hold your very specific point of view. What she's saying in the Syria thing is not wrong. And yet, from his standpoint, you know, you need to get rid of her too because she's an anti-war voice. And
I know.
But this is kind of what I mean. You have these people who are Hillary supporters, and they say these insane things. And the fact that she lost made me feel good that morning, even though I didn't necessarily know what was going to take place later. I was like, I don't like that Donald Trump won, but I'm glad she lost. I'm glad she lost. So that's what I guess that's what I'm trying to cut it in that way. So where sometimes I get into this mindset that these people are off their rockers. These people are maniacs. These people have no clue who they're supporting. And it's like, how do you bridge the gap with the people who don't necessarily live in a fucking unreality? But by the same token, I know 10 years ago, I was probably that same person. And I know 10 years ago, I probably wasn't paying attention to this stuff that much either and was walking in the haze and all this other stuff. So I try to look at both, even though sometimes I can't necessarily pull that back and look at it from the larger context and be fair about it. But they're aggravating. They're aggravating. They're aggravating. And I still have all the feelings from the prior election, like the 2016 thing. It's like, you cheated the guy. Like, it's like, how am I supposed to get over the fact that you cheated the guy? And then the people who were on your side, who knew that the guy was being cheated, ignored it. Exactly. And you ignored it for political reasons.
Exactly. I have a problem with my friends. Like, they voted for Bernie during the primary and they saw what happened, and then they voted for Hillary, fine. But then they got mad at me because I voted third party, and the day Donald Trump got elected, they're like, it's all your fault. Are you happy? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I worked so hard. I did everything to prevent Donald Trump from being president. You know, I'm the one
tried to get Sanders elected, right? I tried to get Sanders.
I became a convention delegate, but it was not easy, let me tell you, because it was very expensive, and I couldn't find a hotel room. The first day I fell asleep at the Marriott ballroom. Okay. That's how bad it was. Really, I took my blanket was the whatever on the table. I'm like losing it right now. But yeah, so I worked harder than them. So don't tell me that I'm the reason why Trump is president. And, you know, and there were warnings. Like my friend Alexis, who was a delegate too, he was pointing out the states that Trump was most likely going to beat her in. Yeah. Which they did nothing about that. Like, if you were so scared, you should have done something about it. You should have put in your time. They didn't. They're just on Facebook, like, telling people off.
Yeah, they assumed that he was so horrible that she was going to win hands down. You know, it's like, if we can tar him so bad, like just completely destroy his credibility and character. And not just that, make it look like the only people who would vote for him will be racist and bigoted and sexist and insane and hillbillies and all this other stuff. Then we can try to create an image of the Trump voter to try to tar people away from being part of that image. It's like, I don't want to be associated with that, so I'm going to stay away from that. This kind of,
you know, what was really interesting to me, because I listen to everyone and I kind of keep an open mind, you know, and I asked Trump's, like, there were certain Trump supporters, and I was like, why are you voting for him? And it was mostly about Syria and this regime change. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And some of them were very educated on foreign policy, but, you know, and then of course they're the ones that there are some Trump supporters that are racist and all that, but I try to listen where they're coming from. And so, you know, sometimes when I talk to my Democrat friends, when it comes to foreign policy, they kind of look at me like a deer caught in the headlights, like this, like, so it's really hard, and we need to have these discussions, and, you know, they need to be part of the political process, and, you know, for what's coming up, instead of just blaming people constantly. Russia hacked the election. Russia. What? What does that mean? Explain.
Yeah, everything is a Russian bot now. They're using it to explain everything. Let me ask you this: is there anything else that you want to tell the audience before we close tonight? Like, if there's anything, I guess, whether it's related to any of that, anything that we talked about, where I always ask this question when I close it, because sometimes people have something that I didn't ask or didn't come up or we didn't bring up. So is there anything else that you want to add to the conversation?
I think I added way more than I thought I was going to add. So
fair enough. Like, there was nothing to be nervous about. Yeah, there's nothing to be nervous about. I know when I first started this, my feeling was always feeling silly initially, if that makes sense. Like, there's this feeling of where it's like, nobody's watching this. I'm sitting in an empty room and I'm looking into a camera and you're talking as if there's somebody there. I feel like an asshole. And then it's like, you're doing that for like a month. Like, it's almost like you have to get over that hurdle of, I feel like an asshole. There's nobody watching me doing this. You're screaming in an empty forest. And somewhere along the way, you come in one day and it feels as normal could be. And in which case you don't necessarily think overly about it as you're, you know, doing it every day in and day out. So yeah, I told you it wasn't going to be bad. It wasn't going to be horrible. And ultimately when you start at that point, you're just having a conversation.
Yeah. I get really nervous because, like, I don't feel as articulate as most, you know, political pundits or like political analysis on here. Like, I get very nervous. I'm an artist, and I feel comfortable when I do, like, singing, performing, things like that. But, like, speaking about politics, you know, because we've been told for so long, shut up about politics. So now it's like, that would be what I would like to add. Stop saying
you're a singer. I forget about that part. What's your singing name? What's your stage name? Just so people would know.
Mariette, yes.
And I will put this at the bottom. It's Mariette Soudja. What's the last part? I couldn't fit everything onto the one line.
Soudja? What do you mean, my last name?
Mariette Soudja. Yeah, I thought there was one more name to that. It was 3 letters. I mean, it was 3 words. Mariette Soudja. And I thought it was. Oh, there was something else. There's a middle name between Mariette and Soudja. Okay, I'm
Oh,
mistaken.
Natasha. Yeah, Mariette Natasha.
Natasha.
Yeah,
Oh, that sounds a little red. There we go. I knew it.
Oh my God, yes!
I knew it.
Natasha. Yeah. So, Madame Mariette is my handle on social media and a lot of places. On Facebook, it's Mariette Music. Yeah, there happens to be another singer named Mariette that just goes by Mariette, and she's in Australia. So I'm having problems with that right now.
Oh wow!
Copyright your name. Yeah. But I would love to come back next month for sure.
Very cool. I am gonna. What day is that on, by the way? What's the day of that? That anniversary.
The anniversary is April 24, but I will be at the protests. We always protest on April 24 at the Turkish embassy. So maybe a day or after, whatnot. Okay. Maybe before would be good. Unless
you want to, well, no, you can do that. Okay, that works. I was going to say unless you wanted to give a report while you were there at the protest, but either way, it could either be before or after.
We could, maybe, yeah, that could work. That's a good idea.
Thank you very much for coming on, Mariette Soudja. Fucking awesome job. No need to be nervous. Thank you. All right, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching.
Going to end this, guys. If you guys enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you guys can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, good job. That was awesome. Let's see.